this seminar is an outgrowth of a research project on ASEAN that Professor Panitan Wattanayagorn has set up. So we've divided this work by writing papers and analyzing ASEAN, looking ahead, but also looking at Thailand's role in the ASEAN community so far. So it's been 18 months. We're trying to be forward-looking. So we will do this. Kavi Chongkittavorn, you have all the bios. I know we passed out the bios of all the speakers. So I'm not going to make long introductions. Kavi Chongkittavorn is a distinguished veteran, long-time expert, analyst, journalist in Southeast Asia, looking after ASEAN for many, many years. He also has worked at the ASEAN Secretariat, a long time with the nations, and also now with other independent journalism. So he will speak first, and then I will speak next. So his topic is, so he'll cover the socio-cultural community in the ASEAN community. So please take your seat, Kavi, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Thitinan. I would like to welcome all of you. After all, we commemorate 50 years old of ASEAN. It was founded in Thailand. I was given a task, very difficult task, to assess Thailand first year in the ASEAN community, and they want me to do the third pillar on social and cultural communities. I'd like you to focus on a few things that will give you my assessment about Thailand's way of handling the ASEAN community. First slide, please. This is my assessment. By international standard, or you want the ASEAN standard, Thai standard, or my personal assessment. This is the overall, because the topic is 1 year, Thailand assessment in the ASEAN community. If you look at international standard, the answer is very clear. Thailand can do much better, can do a lot more. Particularly, the one indicator that Thailand has done can do a lot more is the TRIP report. Thailand has done more than any country in ASEAN regarding migrant worker and anti-trafficking. Detail I would not discuss here because of the time limit. In my analysis in the paper, I give all the details of how Thailand deals with this. And by international standard, TIP report, because now we are still under tier 2 watch list, despite all the efforts that Thailand has done. In comparison to all other ASEAN countries on migrant workers and improvements of overall domestic judicial system and process, Thailand has done pretty well, but not as much as the international standard would like to ask for. Now, by ASEAN standard, we are entering the second years of ASEAN community, and on paper, all ASEAN countries has done very well on paper, but at the implementation level, I think Thailand has do better than most of the ASEAN countries, I would say. I will give you some details. This by overall ASEAN standard. Political security, social and cultural are doing well. As you can see, I did not mention ASEAN economic community because I think Thailand failed in making Thailand as a hub of ASEAN. And Thailand still have one of the highest non-tariff barrier, which I will show you the details. And my personal assessment is rather very personal. What are you talking about? After all this year, Thailand is still very confused about ASEAN community because in our thinking, at least for the past 4 or 5 years, Thailand has spent billions and billions of baht. The conservative calculation is about 5 billion baht. But my calculation is that it's more than 8 billion baht to educate the Thai to increase awareness and understanding of ASEAN, which is part of the pillar of the ASEAN cultural, social and cultural community. That is one of the biggest highlights for Thailand because we are so confusing. We promote AEC as AC. And for the last year, we have been promoting the concept of ASEAN economic community without educating people what does it imply and in detail. I would take up one salient point to show you how confused this country can be when we are the founder of ASEAN. Next slide. This is Suvarnabhumi Airport. If you are ASEAN watcher, you will know that one of the simplest low-lying fruit of ASEAN is to have ASEAN lane. Thailand was the first country in 1995 to have ASEAN lane, but the lane disappeared after 2 years, 1997, in Don Mueang, and it reappears again in December 2013. That is the ASEAN lane. Thailand was the first country again to put this after, or Thailand was the first country to implement ASEAN Charter. Dr. Surin Pesuwan tried to make sure that all the principles or the measures are contained in this being carried out. So you watch carefully, ASEAN lane will disappear in front of your eyes. Second, you see, Dr. Panitan smiling because I've been all this year, 3 years and 4 years, every time I walk through the Suvarnabhumi Airport, I would take picture at a very high risk because immigration officer threatened to jail me because I took this picture. Sometimes I have to put, you see this picture, no one there because I have to stay away from behind. You don't see anything at all. And then next picture, you see Cambodian flag because Thailand focused on ECMEC. But ECMEC is a sort of subset, sub-regional organization, cooperation within ASEAN. ASEAN would be more important. ASEAN lane should be the first priority. So for past 3 years, Thailand have ASEAN lane. When other countries implement ASEAN lane, Thailand said, oh, we have enough of it. So all the ASEAN lane disappear. Next. This is the picture I took 2 days ago. We now have women's lane. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this shows how confusing Thailand is all about ASEAN. That is why it makes ASEAN the way it is. And Thailand, as a founding member, continue to say that we are the hub of ASEAN. Now, my next slide is to show you why ASEAN is so important. You have to see this picture again. This is a new, because Thailand is the world's first women lane. ASEAN lane normal because we have enough. We have been putting ASEAN lane for 3-4 years. Nothing happened. We thought that it's a measure to promote tourism. But all the government officials have not realized that this is part of the people-to-people connectivity. This is part of create ASEAN identity. This is one of the easiest methods to create sense of belonging. And now Thailand wants to go to 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, but then they end up without ASEAN lane, which is rather interesting. So next, this one, as you can see, I want to highlight why ASEAN and Thailand is so important. It will provide you with the understanding when we handle all the plan of action. The red one, you will see that despite the change of government, despite the constitutional change, 18, 19 times you can count it, you can add one more, I don't know, in the future. But one thing has never changed, it's Thai attitude toward ASEAN. But not ASEAN then, by the way. Thailand has always maintained a very good position on ASEAN. Whenever Thailand get together, former Foreign Minister Tet Bunak just told me, when Thailand get their act together, then Thailand can take leadership in ASEAN automatically. Otherwise, ASEAN will remain there on the table. For example, Thailand formed for AFTA in 1990. Actually, credit should be given to Apisit. 2010, amid all the political difficulty, he managed to push out master plan of connectivity. That's wonderful. A lot of people fail to give him credit. And actually, I have one anecdote. In one of his speech, in order to promote Thai human rights, he was the first leader to switch around. Because ASEAN's human rights commitment was first to promote and to protect. And I think Dr. Panitan must remember that in the inaugural speech in Hue Hin, Apisit deliberately put the word to promote the protection of human rights ahead of promotion. So that is the one that I was very impressed when Thailand was the chair. But then unfortunately other things happened, as always in Thailand. So my next slide, just go quickly. As you can see, Thailand, when you assess the social and cultural, there are so many actions contained in this pillar. As I can count and outline to you, it's all about it's about 571 actions. That all together make the social culture is 111 kind of action. So Thailand so far has done very well, as I told you. But on ASEAN lane it failed. So the basic thing failed, but some other thing has done very well. So I have outlined one of the four factors that have impeded, comprise the challenge of Thailand's integration in this pillar. Number one is that all the state officers, as I point out, ASEAN lane, they do not understand. They never study the ASEAN vision 14 ahead. They never consult with one another. They work in silo. Silo means they think of themselves with their own budget. They don't want to synergize and collaborate with others. Our private sector, except a few banks, and I think Thailand private sector is still lagging behind of Malaysian private sector. Malaysian private sector, for example, AirAsia and the Malaysian bank are very good in using the brand name of ASEAN. We still have not utilized the brand ASEAN, but in the past 10 years, I think we have utilized it. We have ASEAN department store and ASEAN massage parlor. But that I think that was in the past. So nobody really wants to use ASEAN brand for something much bigger. Thirdly is the public awareness. Thailand, as I said earlier, still AEC without thinking of other two pillars. AC is much more important than ASEAN community. After all this year, I think the government failed. Particularly, I pinpoint the blame to Ministry of Commerce because they're much too focused on the business side and particularly on SME. At the time, 4 or 5 years ago, they were fear that our Thai SME would not be able to compete with our neighboring country, especially in communicating in English language. As you can see, government bureaucrats and intra-agency have encouraged bureaucrats. Some ministry have regulation that you must speak English every Monday. And that is the way we try to increase public awareness. And also school were taught to sing ASEAN song and dress in national dress on certain day. But without better understanding what would be the ASEAN community. And the fourth is civil society organization, which is a very big component on the third pillar, social and cultural community. In the case of Thailand, I think Thailand is the most active country with the most active CSO, civil society organization. I would even describe Thailand as the #1 hyper. And in 2010, that was the best indicator. Dr. Thitinan was the interlocutor at the time. He knew well. And Prime Minister Apisit just also alluded to. Because we allow all the stakeholders, the sense of inclusiveness was very clear in 2010. But ASEAN leaders were not ready for such an inclusiveness. ASEAN leaders always go slow. all the good idea has been discussed, whether we should drop non-interference or not has been discussed, but the time is not right. So ASEAN always moves slowly. When the time comes, they will take up certain measures that has been discussed. For example, ASEAN Charter. You will be surprised if I told you ASEAN Charter was first brought in 1974 by Romulo, Foreign Minister of the Philippines, in 1974. And I think the ambassador of the Philippines can testify that. So it takes 30 years for ASEAN to come back and revisit this kind of concept. So a lot of good ideas have been discussed and wait until ASEAN is ready. And finally, one of the biggest factor is our academia, which now are improving because they have done very little research on ASEAN. Thailand is the hub of ASEAN. Thailand is the founder. But look at the quality, look at the quantities of the research on ASEAN, very few, and I think we need to promote. Now, next one. Since Thailand came over, Thailand always said want to be the hub, as I mentioned. But Thailand has one of the words. How can you be the hub if you have one of the biggest obstacles, the unseen tariff measure, the so-called non-tariff measure? I like to move very quickly, the time is limited. Move 2 more slides. One more. This is one of the latest survey. A lot of government officials does not want me to show this because it's a shame. Thailand has the highest NPT in all ASEAN countries. This is from the latest research statistic prepared by the area and UNTAD. So this is a very good, and most of them can be eliminated because it's on various, excuse that Thailand wants to place obstacles. So as you can see, why Thailand, we're talking about seamless access to Thailand. You have our economic team go out and take roadshows on EEC 4.0, and when you go down to the basic on 1.0 level, you see that there's still a lot of obstacles. So next one, I will always come to that. Need better coordination. All the specific details about migrations, about climate change, about health, about education are boiled down to 3 important requirements. Number one is that in all our activity, as you can see, we have too many agencies. I outlined for political cooperation, economic cooperation, and social cultural. Sometimes as much as 13 agencies are getting involved. So working together, synergy is very important. What is lacking in Thailand, what prevents us to be the hub in the first 2 years, is that we just don't cooperate with each other. So I think that remains to be seen. So I think with Panitan here, he will probably put a better recommendation. Next one. I give you another example with the legal readiness. This just try to show you harmonization of legal aspect, whether it's e-commerce and other in migrations and all that is still a problem. Next one. Well, I need to give you this because Thailand has a very good idea what would be the futures. I can see Ajahn Thitinan said that in 2 years we will be chairman. So Thailand wants to make sure that we can push our ASEAN Cyber Center. This is important because we are moving to digital economy. But then again, look at the country. There's a lot of measures to cram down, to gap the freedom of expression. So this kind of contradiction prevails. So a lot of people still didn't see the big picture. Secondly, promote Thailand plus one concept to increase the investment and collaboration and CLM, not we, because I think Vietnam has already graduated. And already Thailand has helped come out with a haste-free roadmap. And also, one of the most important things that will be the center of Thailand activity in the next decade is to collaborate with United Nations on sustainable development. As you can see, Thailand is very big on this. As you know, in Thailand, we sometimes use another version called sufficient economy. You will be much more attuned to all this if you follow the foreign ministry we use as a platform. Okay, finally, I'd like you to move on. One more. Future, another one. Future Thailand role in ASEAN. That's all. Try to give you some of the idea what Thailand is planning. Thailand want to make sure that this is very important for the stability of Southeast Asia. Thailand wants to make sure that COC on South China Sea complete. If not next year in Singapore, that it will come to Thailand when Thailand is chair. As you know, Thailand has been pushing with good relations with China. We hope to do that. Secondly, also Thailand is promoting EU. After EU has concluded the free trade area with Japan and also realizing that it has to depend on more European countries. And now EU has suddenly realized that they have to get in closer to ASEAN and listen to ASEAN instead of belittle ASEAN on norms and values which are very important. Now EU has been invited by President Duterte to attend the EAS meeting as a guest along with Canada. This is a very important movement because it can enlarge the security architecture in ASEAN and it can create much more players which can cause a lot of confusion in all this strategic configuration. And EU has not yet proved that it has a viable security policy towards this region. But Thailand support EU as a guest, but then as a guest you probably will become EU, will become EAS member in the future. And I think lastly, it's very important for Thailand to strategically plan, because Thai as a nation, as a people, do not think strategically. We are very good and survive on a day-to-day. We are very good on daily strategy, not on 10 days, 1 year. So this is the first time we were given all the tasks by the virtue of being the center of ASEAN, by being the virtue of the government trying to make Thailand as the hub. My only one recommendation is this. ASEAN policy is Thailand policy. Thailand policy is ASEAN policy. What benefit ASEAN, benefit Thailand. And Thailand and ASEAN policy should be considered as one. Not one country, two ASEAN system. It's one country, one ASEAN system. Thank you very much. And I have to say thank you in ASEAN country. Selamat po, Cảm ơn, Terima kasih, Chia Suba. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are pressed for time, so I will reduce slash my part down to maybe 8 to 10 minutes. Let me also tell you that this, as I mentioned, this comes from a research project. So there's another partner we have, Professor Amitav Acharya. You can see his synopsis that has been passed out and disseminated. And then you can also see the papers, just ask the organizers for the actual papers that we're presenting. On the AEC, I would first say that this is a big week for ASEAN. Lots of publications, speeches, a lot of attention. ASEAN has come full circle. So to go back to look at the beginning, ASEAN is being challenged by the major powers again. This time it's China-US, it's not USSR, it's not Soviet Union-US. And the issues that ASEAN is grappling with, very similar to when it was founded in the mid-1960s. Second, ASEAN faces challenges within each country. Remember that for more than half of its life, ASEAN was only 5 members. We had Brunei in 1984, really 4 original members, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines. Singapore came in because it had just split from Malaysia. Brunei came in 1984. So ASEAN did not become Southeast Asia as we know it until the 1990s, so more recently. And this constrains ASEAN in many ways. I have just I'm not going to be entrapped by my own PowerPoint. I have a few slides. I'll go over them very quickly. There are only 3 points that I want to make in a short time. First, AEC does not really work the way that it has been intended. But the AEC has recouped. If you want to understand the future of ASEAN economic cooperation, take a look at the AEC Blueprint 2025. Now, in that blueprint, they talk about all kinds of lofty goals, but there's a section about what the ASEAN economic integration could be foreseen as, and that is to look at intra-regional investments more than inter-regional trade. Okay, intra-regional investments, and to look at it in terms of global value chain. So you look at the 2025 blueprint, it talks about how ASEAN economies can move forward as a single production base, climbing up the value chains, promoting, focusing on intra-regional investments. Okay, so I'm going to show some slides. These slides will show that ASEAN is the fastest growing region in the world. It also is very all members heavy, which means that most of the trade in ASEAN is among the all members, not so much the CLMV. Okay, so this one is growth, overall growth. You can see the ASEAN GDP skyrocketed really. Next slide, please. Intra-ASEAN trade. So intra-ASEAN trade very low. You know, all these years, since after 25 years ago, intra-ASEAN trade hovers around 24%, 25%. It has been that way for 25 years. So regardless of the AEC, it's still not working. So ASEAN relies more on external markets. Next slide, please. You can see the CLMV, very low proportion, very low proportion. The intra-ASEAN trade is really among the older members. Foreign direct the ASEAN growth model, the ASEAN economic growth model, has relied on foreign investment from outside for regional production in the region, for exports within the region and the outside world. So foreign investment has been the key locomotive of ASEAN economic growth. Population size, very sizable now. I think today is about 647. We don't know exactly every day because, you know, people expand. But I think today, I would say about 647 million in Southeast Asia, in ASEAN. Population growth, internet penetration coming along. Of course, Singapore very high, Thailand up there, and the rest. Here's the ASEAN kind of map. So first thing I want to say is that AEC doesn't work well. But look at the 2025 blueprint. It has inklings, it had promises of how the AEC could be if it can be implemented as such. Second, Thailand is the AEC. Thailand certainly will not reject the AEC, but AEC is not the future rice bowl for Thailand. The future rice bowl for Thailand for the next 2 decades will be mainland Southeast Asia. So these slides will show you that in mainland Southeast Asia, there are different concentric frames of economic development. And you can see here, the GMS frame, more than 1.1 trillion market, 335 million populations, and Thailand is the hub of it. You can also see this in CLMT terms. Thailand is the hub of Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand. It has an integrated market. His Excellency, former Prime Minister President mentioned 6 million people working here from nearby countries, from migrant labor. That figure ranges from 4 to 6 million, but we have an integrated labor market. And then also some finance, banking, healthcare. You can see even Myanmar students, participants in this room, mainland CLMT. Population close to 150 million, half a trillion GDP. And then we have the CLMV. CLMV, V has kind of graduated, but CLMV is still an important frame because that's where Thai direct investment is geared these days. And then ASEAN, of course, is the fastest growing region in the world. Very good projections. Thailand's trade with the regions. Traditionally, if you look at the trade patterns in ASEAN, is first intra-ASEAN trade, 24%, the rest outside. Within the intra-ASEAN trade, Thai trade with Singapore, Malaysia is always the highest, and then Singapore. However, in the last 20, 25 years, Vietnam has emerged and jumped up from nowhere. From 1995 to 2015 and 2020, Vietnam is going to be Thailand's second largest partner in ASEAN by the end of this decade. And Vietnam could potentially be Thailand's largest partner by 2025, 2028. And here's Thailand's trade with CLMV. You can see that a lot of the Thai trade is with Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, following the geography of mainland Southeast Asia. Thailand's investment, or FDI, our foreign direct investment in the CLMV expanded more than the rest. You know, I mean, there has been a record high Thai investment abroad. So if you look at, we're talking Thailand as a major international investor now. A lot of the focus has been on CLMV. Here's the stock. And here is the future. Perhaps you can see if there's more connectivity. Roads we can now drive from Myanmar to Vietnam, but if the rail projects come up, and part of this will be the overall BRI, Belt Road Initiative, the railway with China, maybe also with Japan, the Japan-sponsored railway going east-west and then north-south. So if you can connect mainland Southeast Asia by rail, this would revolutionize how development will become in the mainland space. So that's what Thailand's future will be. AEC will exist, it will always exist. Like ASEAN, as long as ASEAN exists, the AEC will be there. ASEAN has a practice of, agreeing a lot, and then talking along the way, and then amending, changing, revising, and then agreeing some more. But on the ground, in reality, they accomplish not so much. Right? We will hear about the reason of being for the ASEAN political security community and so on. But so ASEAN will be around, AEC will be there. But for Thailand, Thailand is really lucky. All of its problems domestically, regional constraints. But it has a good future because of a certain asset endowment that no one can take away from itself, from Thailand, and that is the geography. Going forward, you'll see that mainland space, CLMV, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam will become more connected, more integrated, labor market now, finance, banking, healthcare, tourism, aviation, and if you add the southern China space, this is really the future of economic integration, quote-unquote integration in Southeast Asia. AEC, very important, of course, but it'll come at a slower pace, a lot of barriers. So for Thailand, the AEC, yes, it's there, but for the real growth and expansion, concrete, on the ground, take a look at mainland Southeast Asia. So I'm going to finish there. I don't want to abuse my time as chair. I want to now move to Ajahn Panitan.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Chula Global Network, Professor Suthipan and his team, and ASEAN Study Center's staff that support this project. I think this is the project that I talked with Professor Suthipan for many years, and finally it's up and running. We are still halfway through. After this public forum, we'll get back with our readers and then try to make some recommendations, amend it, and publish it as a monograph. I think this is the first attempt to look at how Thailand performed in ASEAN. It's not an easy task, considering that not too many previous research has been done.
That's why we draw on experts like Ajahn Thitinan, Kavi, Ambassador Jakkrit, and of course the prolific writer, Professor Amitabh Acharya, who's supposed to be here with us, but cannot. I'm sure you read some of his interesting observations on Thailand's lead, Thailand role, in the creation of ASEAN, based on the new evidence that he found. So this is a very difficult task that we would like to do. Therefore, I think to begin with, I think we have to look at the success of Thailand in ASEAN. I think Prime Minister Pisit already talked on that, but as you can see, in the British embassy's telegram from Bangkok to the UK Foreign Commonwealth in London 3 days after the creation of ASEAN. In that cable, it described a very interesting, a role of Colonel Thitinan Pongsudhirak in pushing, in playing an instrumental role in what we call a sport church, diplomacy, going to Bang San to do the informal meeting near the golf course. And this is described in detail, more than 20 sentences in that cable. That cable, dispatch number 22, 1079-67 was just released. It's in the UK National Archives in London. We begin to receive some of these archives more and more as we learn what's the Thailand role in ASEAN. So it's instrumental in pushing the establishment of ASEAN. Later on in November, there's another cable from DF Norway, from Bangkok to London, describing yet again the Thai and Indonesian initiative in playing an important step in making these ASEAN countries realize what they call common future together. This is very important tool among many new evidences that Professor Amitabh will release more and more in our research in proving that Thailand role is very significant. And also, let's talk about it. Let's give him credit. In fact, in the first cable, it said Thitinan must get the credit for the way the meeting was staged. His role, his commitment, he fully deserves a warm tribute to his statesmanship. I'm sure more and more will be released. I'm also told that the Minister of Foreign Affairs also commissioned one research about Thitinan. Ambassador Ted may know about this research. I think it was commissioned during Professor Somkiat as a director of IDIS. It's still ongoing with Professor Dam on the role of Thitinan Pongsudhirak. I'm not so certain that you had an opportunity to interview him before he passed away 2 years ago or not. But drawing from the strength of Thailand is one of the ways to assess the future role of Thailand in ASEAN. Not only that, when you move on, and I don't have much time into that. Ajahn Thitinan give me 12 minutes. I already spent 5 minutes already. Role in Cambodian conflict, instrumental in Thailand moving members of ASEAN to isolate Vietnam in the United Nations is well documented. It's well researched on this point. So it's very instrumental role contributing to the security community concept without being a military pact like in the West. So this is a real test of the APSC for Thailand behind the success of this. And then you move on to the other conflicts. Sorry, not yet. Including the ASEAN Regional Forum, not conflict, ASEAN Regional Forum, that's a misspell. The role of Thailand behind the scene in pushing the ASEAN Regional Forum, which was held for the first time in Bangkok, was also less described. We are known that other partners like Japan, different Western partners to push for that forum, but in fact, Thailand played an instrumental role in organizing that and pushing that forum, which is beginning to forge the new culture of talk shop and becoming a real security community without becoming a military pact. I think the ASEAN Regional Forum, together with the PMC, is a testimony of how APSC works in the ASEAN way. I think that that is a past success. And then when you look at the annual report that released just this year, in the APSC pillar, there are three main achievements. One, of course, is the focus on non-traditional security issues. I don't have much time to go into the detail. I think you could also get an access to this report. It is very clear that a lot of activities has been focusing on anti-terrorism, transnational crimes, the people smuggling that we talked about, migration and other issues. I think that's the first clear, I think, commitment in the first year that they moved toward these activities. Although many of them have been already in place, already handled by different security agencies. But nevertheless, you can feel among security agencies that this is the urgency of these countries in working together, including, of course, cybercrime and other. Recently, as you know, there's a big crackdown of the cybercrime in the recent U.S. history, based from the cooperation in Thailand. I think you saw that already in the announcement from the White House, that this is the biggest ever crackdown of the organized crime on internet in the world. And they mentioned Thailand's role many times in that regard. So this is very clear. I'm sorry that I cannot bring those details to you yet, as some of these cases are still in the process and pending, but we hope that in the end of this project, some of these details of these operations would be released for us to make it public. Second, of course, strengthening and institutionalizing the meetings, ADMM, the ADMM Plus, AMM, AIS, APSC Council, AMMTC, law ministers, HADR, and all of these, even AI, CHR, the human rights, in the process of being institutionalized, being strengthening, being adjusted according to different new laws in Thailand. I think, and also in ASEAN, I think you can see it's very clear that they work on the past success, stepping up on some of these meetings and trying to, if not streamline, trying to be serious, more than eating durians, more than handshakes. The ADMM Plus, for example, is very clear on issues of North Korea, on issues of South China Sea, on issue of ISIS. So I think this is the beginning of a new culture to pick up serious issues, not a low-hanging fruit alone, but it's an ASEAN way. Do it outside the formal meeting, do it in the retreats, do it in a very informal setting. That's the second focus. I think you can feel it. You can see it from this report. And last, of course, security and defense, real cooperations in many areas, maritime, military medicine, the counterterrorism training and exercises in different ways. You notice that last year you have a few more exercises, including the biggest exercise, which is not ASEAN related, like Kobago, but encompassing ASEAN beyond and including countries. So I think that ASEAN's how do we assess the success? It's even more difficult because we don't produce any report yet on our activities, on our progress. So I have to go to the origin of the money to see how much money the Thai government dispatched to these projects, ASEAN-related projects. So we found out that last year, at least 49 plans and projects are highlighted from different ministries: Interior, Defense, Justice, NSC, NIA, Police. About 49 projects earmarked as ASEAN APSC projects. And budget is difficult to calculate because some of those programs already in place, like anti-narcotics. Already ASEAN NARCO is already in place a few years before ASEAN become a community. But they set up, the activities. So the budget that earmarked for this is about 100 million. This is a rough calculation. You cannot even quote it directly. This is just a working number. About maybe $5 million US, more or less, on the new budget earmarked for these activities. And the rest are already an ongoing, evolving, incremental projects and budget that are already earmarked for many years. But nevertheless, these projects are focused on border management, intelligence exchanges, and also new systems of border management. With Malaysia, there's a new plan, new proposal to do the joint border, joint patrol, electronic fencing, and I think this will come more and more as these agencies are ready to engage in the new activities. On maritime cooperation, there's a new maritime national strategy. I think that's also a new area. So in general, we can focus on 3 areas of activity. One is, of course, updating, adopting new plan, new policy, new strategy, border management, counterterrorism, new cybersecurity strategy, new maritime strategy, new national security policy. They're busy updating, creating this, including updating Safe Home operation plan and others. And of course, the biggest challenge is to integrate this into the 20-year national strategy. I think this is a new daunting task for Thailand. They need to plan how to engage with ASEAN for the next 20 years. And the process has already begun by the adoption of the new legislation last week on national strategy. And it will be next month that the new committee will be appointed, and they will be begin to integrate all of the ASEAN plans into this ASEAN into this national strategy. So that's number one area. So updating this strategy. Next slide, please. The area, of course, strengthening the cooperation. That, as I mentioned, 49 plans. The budget is earmarked more on certain areas. You see more areas like illegal fishing that within a center, new joint operation center on this issue. The EU is very familiar with these new activities in this area. I don't need to elaborate more. The TIP report, new activities at TIP, commitment with different countries, including Australia, are very clear. And also HADR, is also, Prime Minister was invited to speak on this commitment at the UN Refugee Summit. So it's very clear that the country is in the process of enhancing the strengthening cooperation that already in progress, on progress. Last, there is an interesting, next please. New capacity, new agency being created. One is, if you notice, April 2015 is a new center on military medicine. We work with Russia to open in case that there is a disaster in ASEAN. Now there is a center for medicine for doctors to be dispatched to this area. This is very new and this is very interesting. Also exercises, AM, SGX exercises, ADMN plus exercises in the military medicine has been initiated, implemented. So this is a real, new area, new capacity building. Dr. Srivali talked about this for years, that Thailand should be the center of this disaster relief. Okay. Location-wise, readiness in the military medicine, private sector medicine is very able. Military medicine is very able. So Thailand should contribute more. And also another interesting thing is the disaster emergency logistics system. Meaning that now there's a logistics, there's a things to be stored in Thailand, to be used for ASEAN friends in the national disaster. That is just in the beginning, but it is making sense in the future. When connectivity is completed, Thailand will be the hub to dispatch not only doctors, but needed items to different regions. Our success in helping, in cooperating with many countries, including Myanmar on Hurricane Nargis, prove that we can do it. I think, so in the end, Thitinan says, I need to stop, but there are a few more interesting, last slide, please. Okay, this is interesting new areas like PBICS, ASEAN Narcotic Cooperation Centers, that is now being upgraded, the immigration new system, biometrics. In the end, I think I'll summarize that in the first year performance, we found that Thailand is now back on track, building on past success, and trying now to consolidate, what can be done, try to come up with a new plan, new strategy. That's number one. Number two, you can sense that in the last few months, different agencies beginning to accelerate their activities, realizing that they need to integrate their plans into the new national strategy. They begin to accelerate their activities, their plans into the more unified unit. They also lastly begin to touch and have eyes on the major issues like ISIS, like North Korea, like South China Sea, but you don't see this yet coming until we are ready to be shared. I hope they work more on these issues. And lastly, not looking out, not looking beyond borders alone, but looking back, you can see quietly new security reform initiatives on police, on military, on security agencies in different ways, and also in the end, lastly, our national strategy for Thailand. For the first time, Thailand and ASEAN will be integrated. The plan will be integrated into one system. And by the way, Prime Minister Prayut already talked about this 2 years ago. If you remember, at Shangri-La Dialogue, he was the first Thai Prime Minister in 15 years being invited to the Shangri-La Dialogue. He laid out this plan very clear. In the last 2 years, he made his promise to the plan. Last, really, can we do it faster? It is to our liking, being an academic. I think we could have done better by being more seriously pushing it. The time is running out, but I think so far, I think we have come a long way. I think based on our strengths, I think the last stage of the roadmap, if this administration really push it in the first pillar, I think you can see a significant role of Thailand in ASEAN in the next few years. So I'll end it with that.
Thank you, Ajahn Panitan. Thank you. One of the trends that Ajahn Panitan highlighted is the kind of this interesting dichotomy between high security threats. So we have problems in the South China Sea, Korean Peninsula, and low security. Low security, perhaps we can look at transnational crime, piracy, and so on. On the low security agenda, there's been actually more ASEAN cooperation, especially HADR, through the ADMM+, so that's very promising. Ambassador Jakkrit Srivali he has flown back for this seminar to speak to us from Budapest. He's currently the new Thai ambassador in Budapest, Hungary, which looks after several countries in that area. But before that, he was the Director General of the ASEAN Department. So he'll have a lot to say. He also has worked on ASEAN issues for many, many years. ท่านทูตจักริดครับ the floor is yours, but I would have to ask you to stick to within 10 minutes if that's possible.
Yes, thank you again, Thitinan. I will try to make this as brief as possible. I came a long way from Hungary, but for 15 minutes, I hope, or maybe 12 minutes as you asked. Let me get right away to the gist of the topic, which is Thailand's first year in the ASEAN community, challenges and prospects. What we did during our first year must be taken in context of the long-standing Thai commitment to ASEAN from the beginning. You know that the ASEAN is often cited as the pillar or a pillar, but many times the pillar of our foreign policy. And for a good cause, because to date, the grouping has supported Thailand and the region's interests well. So Thailand has always attempted to play a leading role in the development of ASEAN, and we've taken a progressive and forward-looking stance towards the development of ASEAN since the beginning. If you recall Dr. Thanat's speech on the day of the Bangkok Declaration, he spoke of building a new society that will be responsive to the needs of our time and efficiently equipped to bring about for the enjoyment and the material as well as spiritual advancement of our people's conditions of stability and progress. What he said, although he didn't use the word, meant in essence community. And today the community is upon us, and as I think we mentioned earlier, it takes a long time in ASEAN for things to come to fruition, but at last the community is here, even though it's a community with a capital C still, and we have yet to establish a community with a lowercase c. And still, the language of the declaration in which Thailand had a hand expressed the shared aspiration of the original member states to bind themselves together in friendship and cooperation, and through joint efforts and sacrifices, secure for their peoples and for posterity the blessings of peace, freedom, and prosperity. Now, in the years that followed, we all know that peace and prosperity became the main foci of ASEAN. What was often overlooked in the mix was the notion of freedom. But with the ASEAN Charter and with the subsequent community, this came into a greater balance was achieved between the three original goals set forth in the Bangkok Declaration. And the ASEAN Charter explicitly states that the aim is to strengthen democracy, enhance good governance and the rule of law, and to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedoms. Now that is, if that's not ambitious, I don't know what is. ASEAN is many times aspirational, and we try to live up to our ideals, but it's not an easy road. There's great diversity among the members, varying degrees of commitment to what are called these shared ideals. But we have made progress. Institutions have been established, the AICHR, and the idea of the rules-based, people-centered, and inclusive community is here to stay. So ASEAN was already successful before it became a community. And we have a saying that success has many fathers, and then ASEAN has 5 founding fathers, and so Thailand is one of the fathers of ASEAN, or the founding fathers of ASEAN. Feels a sense of proprietary and paternal pride for this body. And what we achieved in when ASEAN was still ASEAN 5 or ASEAN 6 was enough to, I think, to establish ASEAN as one of the more successful regional organizations. It did not need to become a 3-pillared community, and it was successful in maintaining regional stability and was well on its way to becoming an economic community. But it did decide to go ahead and have this 3rd pillar of ASCC, the ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community. So this brings issues that have to do with people into greater prominence within on ASEAN's plate. Now, the community presents in many ways uncharted waters for ASEAN because it will require a more fundamental level of integration than ever attempted so far. And it seeks to involve the people and raise ASEAN from addressing must-have public goods, such as conditions that foster security, and to nice-to-have public goods, such as good governance, rule of law, and human rights. And so this is quite a departure for ASEAN, and I think in the first year of the community, this is the one area that was not business as usual. In the first two pillars, in the political security and economic pillars, we had business as usual. We had the security-related issues such as the South China Sea. We continue to work on the CSEP, and non-tariff measures still proved a significant obstacle to a free and open single market. And the common ASEAN identity still remain elusive. But this is par for the course as far as the ASEAN way is concerned. Well, Thailand in the first year has been working on these business as usual issues as well, but also on this newer dimension of ASEAN, which is the social cultural dimension, which embraces issues such as human rights, good governance, rule of law, and so forth. And given our traditionally progressive outlook, I think we have in place a good, deep structure that will continue to advance these issues. Although the political atmosphere climate is not, terribly conducive, but we do have the mechanisms in place, and it's an ongoing process to strengthen the AICHR and to engage more closely with civil society organizations. We have been doing that. But at the level of the government itself, to its credit, the government has given full support for the work of ASEAN, in particular the areas of ASEAN endeavors that will benefit to the Thai people. And one of these areas is raising awareness about ASEAN among the Thai population. The Foreign Ministry and other government agencies have been working hard to raise awareness. We realize that despite our efforts, it's still a drop in the bucket as far as getting the Thai population to understand what ASEAN is about and to benefit fully from ASEAN. I don't know if the figure cited by Kavi of 6 to 8 billion Thai baht is, I don't know about that, but certainly we could use, at the Foreign Ministry, we could certainly use some of that. So please let the powers that be know that we would like to focus more on bringing knowledge of ASEAN to the entire Thai population, not just Bangkok, but the countryside. And we have had projects that seek to do this by reaching out to rural communities and engaging with universities and local communities and local governments. And this, I think, has been having a slow effect, but that is to be expected. It takes, I think, at least a generation in order for a sense of community to develop. We have been working, despite the constraints on pursuing a more progressive agenda as part of Thailand's ASEAN policy. We have been making progress in the less controversial social issues, such as active aging, in response to the upcoming, or is already upon us, the aging society that is afflicting many countries in ASEAN and East Asia. So Thailand was a champion ASEAN +3 statement on active aging, and this is expected to create a forum for exchange of information and experiences on this area. Also, as alluded to earlier by my co-panelists, we are working to coordinate with the UN to ensure that the ASEAN goals are consistent with the SDGs. And this would, I think, create some more and more synergy with ASEAN and the international community. So I think that as we move forward, the three issues that will confront ASEAN and will determine its continued success in the next 50 years will be ASEAN centrality, how we are able to maintain our cohesiveness and solidarity, or if you would like to use the word maintain, maybe restore it. Also, the issue of diversity. We like to say that diversity is a strength in ASEAN, but oftentimes it does hold ASEAN back from being more ambitious and to living up to its self-professed commitments. And also, inclusiveness will be a key factor in the evolution of the ASEAN community and the success of the ASEAN community, and whether it does become a community with a lowercase c or remains one with a capital C. I think my time is about up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Jakkrit, Ambassador Jakkrit. Look, we have a long day of comments, insights, so I don't want to take more time. We have the afternoon session starts at 1 o'clock. If I may wrap up this way as an upshot, I know we have for ISIS seminars, and by the way, a lot of these articles will be published on the ISIS, will be included in the ISIS Facebook, ISIS Thailand Facebook, so you can see the publications there. We have our audiences, among them our friends who have to write tables back home. So if I may wrap up in a kind of a table way, you can tell headquarters that this is what's happening in Southeast Asia this week. These countries have reached a milestone. They're stopped at what they've done. They didn't intend to come this far. They began as a divided region, 5 countries, and then Indochina, Burma at that time from 1962. Indochina was divided, communism. But along the way, they overcame the Cold War. They overcame the war on terror. Along the way, they became the broker, the platform for regionalism in Asia, starting with the APEC in 1989, ARF in 1994, and on, APT, ASEAN +3 in 1998, eventually East Asia Summit 2005, ASEAN Defense Ministers meetings 2010. So we're astonished at how far we've come. There are similar issues and challenges. These challenges are as durable, long-lasting as ASEAN has been resilient. So you look at the challenges now, the major powers, dividing up the region again, China, South China Sea, dividing up ASEAN, US under Trump, perhaps playing a balancing role, but the US has 2 allies around here, Philippines and Thailand. But the rest, and then vis-a-vis China, we're seeing a ASEAN imperative, again, for regional autonomy. So you can tell headquarters that ASEAN has a lot of problems. There are divisions across, there are divisions at home, within. Some societies are polarized. But to the outsiders, ASEAN will be here to stay because they need themselves to maintain regional autonomy, keep the major powers away at bay. At the same time, they will have their own problems going forward. The ASEAN community, AEC, ASEC, APSC, and so on. But ASEAN will be here 2 decades, 5 decades, I think, from now, because it's not just good for ASEAN, it's also good for everybody else, because if there's no ASEAN, Asia will see a lot more tension and probably conflict. So thank you very much. I'm sorry you don't have time for Q&A, because the next session starts at 1 o'clock. I also apologize. I mean, I know our stakeholders and